And Kelly, I guess the quorum is going to be a tough nut. So
Yeah, this looks like we do not have a quorum.
that's not the first time. So just press it in. I'm assuming maybe some of the people like me, the directions were relatively close, but you have to do some prospecting.
When you got in the parking lot.
I thought we had discussed last time making changes to the quorum rules at some or something. We did talk about that at one point, right? I don't know if what had been implemented or what we had decided. Do you guys remember that discussion?
Yes, but
There was like I can't even what I don't. I'm sure it's in the
a
minutes.
couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
Is there anybody on Zoom?
Neil Byrne.
Where's our flag? There it is. Okay, I see it. Good. Let's stand up and do the pledge.
Oh, right. Okay.
The flag that came over there. Flag is right there. Pledge
allegiance to the flag, the United States of America,
to the republic which stands
one nation
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Before we come into the meeting, I want to apologize. I am not contagious, but my head cold is moved to my throat, so I sound a little bit like Harry Belafonte. So if my voice runs out, we'll have to make the best of it. Public comment. Do we have anyone fill out the cards for public comment?
No public comments.
Public comments, okay?
Is there a vice chair here today or no?
No,
Okay, all right.
well, not yet. Anyway.
Okay. If there was, you could pass the gavel to them if you don't want to exactly.
I'm good.
Okay.
Press it. I would be, Patrick, I would feel like I failed my duties if I, my first meeting basically quit on the job, so
That's not quitting.
anyway.
It's not quitting.
All right, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Yeah. If so, are there any changes, alterations, and if not, do we have a motion to approve?
We don't have quorums.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we can't do that, okay, so. If you,
You can talk about them.
okay, does anybody want to talk about the minutes? So this is basically, we'll just move forward, it's an information session.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, any questions or comments about the minutes? Okay, moving right along. FDOT report, Tanya.
Tanya isn't here today. I don't know if we received any information from FDOT. Okay, no. There's no FDOT report today then.
Okay. Presentations, regional trail updates for members.
Well, I had questioned this one. I looked at the agenda. I saw this was on the agenda. I think I just asked Nina about it. It looks like I think the concept here, you guys were just going around the table and providing any updates from any jurisdictions. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I the only one here today that might do that? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me think about this. Regional trail updates for members. Okay, so we know that there's a bifurcation of the trail that's happening on the Lakes Trail right now. That's in between I think Circus from like school to Beneva, I believe, could be extent. Anyway, that it's mainly along the section up the north end that runs east-west. Our park staff had a grant. They're finishing construction of basically right now in the corridor, this 14-foot wide multi-use trail. They're building a separate 6-foot path along the side then the right of way just to accommodate pedestrians who might want to use a trail without any e-bikes or other bikes, coming their way, right? So I think there was some meetings about some striping. I think that should be done at the end of March.
Wow.
So that bifurcation is coming along, and there's other sections of the trail that have sufficient right of way that in the future could also apply to that. But right now that bifurcation is happening in that section. Also similar in that area too at Beneva, the Friends of Legacy Trail, Trust for Public Land, and the Gulf Coast Foundation are finalizing and finishing up the construction of converting the sidewalk on Beneva from the trail to Fruitville, turning that into a 10-foot wide multi-use path to connect future locations to Bobby Jones through 17th Street Park. We met with Charles a couple weeks ago at the county to talk about some trail stuff, and the update on that was that it should be done in March. They're in the preliminary stages of planning a ribbon cutting for that section. I don't know when that's going to be, but we had talked about and suggested from the county's perspective having that ribbon cutting at the end of March because the county will be doing a proclamation to our board on March 24th to celebrate Florida Bike Month. And, you know, we go out there, we talk to the commissioners, we promote some things that are happening in that month. And I thought, you know, we thought it'd be a good strategy to talk about the success of public-private partnerships and building trails. So we could do that on the 24th and maybe have the ribbon cutting sometime after that. So we get that suggestion. That was pretty well received. I don't know if it's going to work out that way, but we could be doing that ribbon cutting at the end of the month. In relation to that, I guess we are also planning in March for Bike Month, a Bike from Work event. And we're going to focus this time on the Legacy Trail. And part of that, we're along with the city, they're actually going to be doing a ribbon cutting for so on the south side of Payne Park, they had a grant to connect where the trail comes east-west. Normally you take the trail out and loops north, right, to Fruitville. But now they're building a trail that you can cut across east-west over to US 41, right? So the city had a grant to complete that section of, it's pretty much an extension, an arm of the Legacy Trail that runs right on the south side of Payne Park. That ribbon cutting itself, we're trying to plan that for the same date for our Bike from Work event, which right now I think we preliminarily scheduled for March 31st. That just seemed to be the best time to work out for everybody. It's going to be an event that's going to be on Eventbrite. I'll make sure this committee gets a hold of that or is aware, but the concept of it is we did in the last 2 years too. We do a Bike from Work. So traditionally it's bike to work, right? But we found that Bike from Work kind of targets a different audience. We can get some of the local businesses more on board. The people like leave work a little early, come ride with us. They're usually done around 5:30, but this time we're going to focus on projects along the trail, right? So we're going to start at Payne Park with the ribbon cutting at the south end of Payne Park. We're going to go down. We're going to stop and talk about projects. We'll stop at the bifurcation, talk about that. We'll go to Beneva, promote that, talk about how we came to that. We'll get down to Bay Vista, talk about some of the overpasses that are coming for design. We'll ride down to Bee Ridge and get to see the overpass that was built last year at Bee Ridge. And then we'll turn around and come back. So it should be overall good event to promote bike safety, encourage people who maybe haven't been on the trail or think about riding to come out and do that. And so we have that happening. Want me to keep going? Let's see. I had a memo that I could probably reference. I don't know where. Let me see if I can find it. Sent. You just bear with me. We had a board assignment to our Sarasota County Board of County Commissioners to provide an update on trail related projects that the county's undertaken in the last, I think I went back maybe 5-6 years or so. And I'm just going to reference that document. See what else I could tell you guys that we can update this committee. So, you know, under 2026 and beyond, you know, I just talked about it a little bit earlier. We have in plan to design 3 overpasses right over the Lakes Trail, Beneva, Tuttle, and Bay Vista. They're at various stages of procurement, I guess. I guess they're taking bids for designs, things like that. But you know, just off the momentum of having the 2 built at Clark and Bee Ridge, you know, we can see the need for the value of overpasses and how it relates to our Vision Zero and safety action plans and all that. So, you know, the first stage is doing the design and then figuring out the construction part of it. But I think last time I checked the project manager, we were going under some bidding for design, right? So the ball has is rolling. The dominoes are falling, right? We're getting that design, hopefully to get some construction. We know that the MPO has assigned some funding to construct the shared use path on 17th Honore Nathan Benderson Park, which is slated for next fiscal year, which is the state fiscal year, which starts July 1. So we can get that. That's something that's coming up. So that connection is an important connection in our regional trail system to connect the city's project and Bobby Jones down to the extension I just talked about, Geneva, potentially into Nathan Benderson Park, and then potentially, if we ever get the overpass, when we get the overpass over I-75 into Lakewood Ranch and beyond. So I think regionally, the network that we're planning is, I've been here for 11 years now at the county, and you just, you take a step back. These things happen slowly and increments, but when you kind of take a look back and see the connections we're making and really connecting, the county from the north to south end, we're really, this group, the county, the cities, their stakeholders are really, I think, doing the right things and putting the motivation for everybody to really focus on trails and see the value of them. How long do I have for this section? Do you guys have presentations to do? Megan, do you have one? Okay. All right, let me be short here. Okay, let's not neglect South County a little bit. I think the River Road project, that's been going on for years now. I think last time we talked, that's going to be finished maybe this time next year, the north end of River 41 north. And that's an FDOT project now. I don't want to misspeak on the timeline. I think that's what it is around that, but we know multi-use paths are going to be on River Road on that section. The county is in various stages right now of extending the south of 41 on River Road. So again, the connectivity component is really emerging. Yeah, let's leave it at that for now. So next time we have a regional trails update, I will make sure I give you guys updates on all those components, and can talk about other projects that we've done in the past, et cetera. So that's all I have for now.
2 questions or 1 observation. Could you make sure that the MPO is apprised of all the ribbon cuttings so they can be sent out to us so we can attend or not attend?
Yeah.
I think it's important to get bikers out.
The bike clubs too. I mean, they'd love to attend.
Yeah.
Yes. You get it to me, I'll get it to my bike club and Rich.
Sure.
Probably visitors.
We'll broadcast.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. So, Corinne, before you came in here, we were talking about trails. I was talking about potential ribbon cutting for Geneva, and I also mentioned potential ribbon cutting for the South Bean Park section.
Yeah, I didn't know where we were going after this, but I just brought it up.
Yeah, I would just mention that those are things we're tentatively targeting March. So just FYI.
Yeah, when you complete the striping on the bifurcated trail, will that be it's done?
Yeah, as far as I know, I think people will be using the bifurcation well before the ribbon cutting, right? I think it's going to be ready by then. But I have to talk to Parks to find out exactly what the final stages are. I think the striping and then probably some inspections that need to happen, right? But I think we're targeting March for that bifurcation to be ready to go. I haven't been in that section. I don't know if people are using it right now, but Danny, do you have?
Yeah, the bifurcation's done as far as I can tell.
Okay.
I pulled up all the construction stakes and all the netting is gone.
Okay.
They're watering the grass. It's the main thing they're doing. Every couple of days, they bring a truck and water the grass in the median. I don't know what striping they're gonna be doing. I don't immediately see where there would need to be any.
I think there was directional arrows. I think in some cases, I'll have to get with Parks, but maybe in some cases stop bars, right? I don't know, can't remember the exact thing, but there was some discussion about some striping. I wasn't able to go to that meeting, but I'll get an update from Parks and pass it on.
It's been well used since the grass was torn up, even before when it was just dirt, there were people over there.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen.
Length of it, it looks like it's rather like a moderate to it.
If I had to guess, it'd be, I don't know, half or 3/4 of a mile,
Yeah.
shade to not quite Beneva to where the footing
Oh.
of the Beneva overpass will be.
I got it here. It's 1.5 miles from Beneva to Shade. So that's 1.5 miles.
And one final question, and I'm not gonna hold you to this under any circumstances. But as somebody who's about to be 71 in April, is there any sort of, could you even speculate about a timeline for these bridges, which is just something fantastic news for?
Well,
I just wonder if I'll ever be able to ride over them. That's my question.
well, John, I guess I'll say that I think. I mean, it all comes down, like, once we do the design, I think there, historically, it seems like once the design's ready, there's a lot of motivation to find the funding for construction. And I think the overpass has typically been taking 18 months to complete, from start to finish. So that time frame will probably hold true, right? Once the design's done, I think there's definitely, I think it could get done in planning terms relatively soon, right? I mean, there are always holdups in terms of priorities and things like that. You said you weren't going to hold me to it, so I'll be as candid as possible, right? But
Crystal ball.
right, I would say in the past, when we have designs done of the overpasses, funding seems to follow not too far after, right? And we have commitments in the community for like safety, Vision Zero, and things like that. So there's, Lake Trail's always projects on there always seem to elevate, right, to some level, right? So.
Well, it's a great report, a lot of encouraging stuff going on here, so super. Any other questions for Patrick?
I have one if it's okay. The Beneva Trail.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to the construction zone, comes all the way up to the trail. But the Beneva Trail comes all the way up to Legacy Trail. So if you're coming off Legacy Trail and you want to go north on Beneva, there's a barricade right there. There's a desire path and people going into traffic, both the right way and the wrong way to get around that barricade. And there's not even any construction being done there. It's across the intersection.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is the right place or do a 311 or what I should do to say, can we move that barricade back? So people can get into the neighborhood to go around.
It's from the trail, from the construction of the trail in Beneva?
Or as I can tell,
Okay.
yes, that it's for the Beneva, where the Beneva sidewalk's been ripped out.
Yeah.
Across the intersection,
Okay.
the last intersection before the Legacy Trail.
Yeah.
That's what barricades are. So you have to do something extra to get north
Okay.
on Beneva. And then,
Well-
I don't see why they couldn't put that on the other side of the intersection.
I think that's something that we can, so because it's a private-public partnership for this particular project, right? The project manager, I think Charles Hines has identified himself as project manager. So when we get, I'm not sure exactly what's happening there, but I think that's something that we can reach out to Charles and ask him if something's happening there.
All right.
And because it's private, because it's a public-private partnership, I think we could probably get some resolutions pretty soon. So Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I will just say, Danny, do you wanna draft me an email with the description of what's going on, and then I can send it to Charles? Or even if I don't know if you're in regular contact with Charles, you could send it to him yourself, but if you want, you can send it to me, I can send it to him.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick. Good report. MPO report.
Sure, I'll start with the list of project priorities. Where should I stand? I don't know. No, okay. So this is just a quick update to say that we have a draft of the 2026 list of project priorities that was developed in partnership with our local agency partners based on project applications that they developed and submitted. We are asking for local agencies to confirm the local projects by February 20th with their councils and commissions. I think I've heard from just about everybody. And there might just be a couple more pending. So it looks like we're good to go to take this for adoption to the MPO board at the end of March. This will also go to the TAC and CAC in a few weeks in March. The draft that we sent out, there have been some changes since it was sent out. This was with information that we got from the local agencies. You'll also note that the draft list of project priorities looks a great deal differently than it has in previous years. We had to reformat it now that we've adopted the 2050 long range transportation plan. And we also wanted it to better communicate the relationship between the long range transportation plan and projects that are eligible for MPO discretionary funds. So we try and organize it between projects that are MPO priorities, that are funded, that are not yet funded or programmed in the work program, and then those projects that are local priorities, which are not eligible for MPO discretionary funding. So we try to put a little bit more language in the list as well to help explain the differences between the projects and those that are eligible and not. So it's just an announcement, an update. If you have any questions about the projects, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we have a couple of weeks as we finalize the list before we take it up for adoption.
As you're aware, the League of American Cyclists has a lobby day in Washington, which is coming up in March. And I'll be leading the group up there. We have 2 representatives from District 1 that are going. So Nina, if we could have that priority list, we'll be happy to sit down and talk to Buchanan and Stubbe and some of the others when we're up there, visiting with them on the priorities for our area.
Excellent. Yeah, I will send it to you directly right after the meeting, and we can discuss.
Even if it's not approved, it's just something we can use as, here's our ask, what we're looking for funding.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
Safety targets, this is up next.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, oh, it's fine, you don't have to be on camera.
Okay. So I am going to share with you our adopted safety targets that we took to the board back in January. So as you may recall in the past, you might have heard that each year we develop our annual safety targets. They're set, brought to the MPO board for adoption, and then submitted to FDOT in February. So we set targets within 5 performance measures, including the number of fatalities, rate of fatalities, number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries, and lastly, the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. We set these targets because we are mandated to do so, and MPOs can choose to either adopt the state's targets or they can establish their own safety targets. This year, similar to past years, we've followed the state's targets of 0, aligning with their target 0 efforts and the MPO's destination 0 efforts. Setting targets of 0 aligns with 21 of the 27 MPOs within the state. Most of them do adopt the state's targets of 0s, but there are 6 that do set their own targets. And we feel it's important to adopt those targets of 0 because it provides a clear commitment to safety that no death or serious injury is acceptable. It helps keep safety at the forefront of all of our transportation planning efforts. Using statewide targets of 0 helps with that continuity and consistency across the state and with the other MPOs. And then lastly, adopting the target of 0 helps us focus on continuous improvement. So although we might not reach 0 every year, when we're looking at the trends, they might fluctuate up and down, but we're still always keeping that 0 target in their view. So although we set the targets at 0, we still track where our performance is. So we use a 5-year rolling average. That far right-hand column shows you the 2022 to 2026 projected numbers that we anticipate getting based on the 5-year data. And you'll see that that projected column number are lower or equal to prior 5-year rolling averages. And then lastly, just wanted to make you aware that we do have a lot of information about the crash data available on our website. We have within the Destination 0 Safety Action Plan button under studies, you can get to this site and we have these various fatal and serious injury cluster map, which is shown in that top right hand corner, the pedestrian cluster map, and the left turn and off-road crash cluster map, so you can kind of go into these locations and look in more detail at where these crashes are happening. And then also the map on the bottom shows the high injury network, so you can see how these crashes relate to that network. So more just an informational item that we wanted to bring to you. This is an effort that Nick Schiavini has worked on. He's away at training, so I'm presenting it on his behalf. So if you have questions, I can certainly try and answer, but if not, I can touch base with Nick when he returns.
Any questions? Thank you, Megan.
I'm gonna keep standing here.
You're up again.
Yeah, I'm up again. So along with the safety targets, we also last year completed a safety countermeasures performance study to kind of see how are our safety improvement projects working in the real world. Are they actually making a difference, and what kind of difference are they making? So that we did this study to help build upon our Destination Zero efforts. It allowed us to gather information or an inventory of all the safety projects that are happening in our region. And it also helped us develop a framework for ongoing monitoring of safety projects to better understand which different countermeasures are useful in different scenarios throughout our region. So the team working with the FDOT Safety Office and local partners from all our jurisdictions and counties were able to identify 123 safety projects. We gathered data from Signal 4 and then FDOT's Regional Integrated Transportation Information System to evaluate these projects on both safety metrics that are on the left-hand side there, and then mobility metrics on the right-hand side. This next slide here, not yet. So we took all that information and did our analysis. But when we were looking at the safety metrics, we looked at information from 3 years before the project was implemented and 3 years after. And for the mobility metrics, we looked at data from 1 year before the countermeasure was implemented, as well as 1 year after. So for using that safety metric screening, we were able to evaluate 38 projects that had data for 3 years prior and 3 years post, and 72 projects that had data for 1 year prior and 1 year post. So this is the slide that kind of shows what we did to evaluate that. So on the left-hand side there, the kind of darker orange are the ones that we actually evaluated. The lighter orange include all the safety projects that were within the 2-county region that were identified. Then we took the data from FDOT and Signal 4 and placed a 150-foot buffer around each of those projects that was analyzed. And then we looked at the data in that timeline at the bottom. You can kind of see we looked at the pre-data, the safety measure was implemented, and then the post data to see how those metrics were affected. So for looking at the safety metrics, we did find that total crashes for vehicles and bike ped as well have increased, but the number of and severity of crashes had decreased. So it is promising that we're putting in safety countermeasures, and although the total number of crashes might not have changed, the severity is decreasing. We also looked at the safety results to see how it might have been impacted by the different type of countermeasure that was implemented, whether it be roundabout, intersection improvements, or lighting. And these all showed that there was a reduction in the severity of crashes, even if the number of crashes did increase. It seemed to have a positive impact. These maps here on the left-hand side, again, is the safety measures that we looked at. The darker ones are the ones that are analyzed. And kind of overlaying that with the high injury network, we do see that a lot of the safety measures that have been implemented align with the high injury network. So it tells us that we are putting money towards safety projects in areas where we know that there are issues or concerns with injuries. These maps here are showing kind of what the data said, but also I did calling out some of the shortfalls of the data. 38 projects in one for safety metrics is not an extensive or exhaustive list. But as we get more data, we can build upon it and see how overall things might be changing. On the left-hand side, it shows the number of total crashes, like how that might have changed over time from implementing the project. So in the top here at 53rd and US 41, there were fewer total crashes after implementing the countermeasure. But down on B Ridge, there were actually more crashes. And it's likely not a result of implementing the safety project. It probably has other factors like increases in volume of traffic or other changes in the community that might be happening. On the right-hand side, there is information on the before and after for killed and serious injury crashes. You can see that overall there's a decrease in those severe crashes, which aligns with the same information I shared earlier, but this is just a visual way to kind of see where that might have taken place. When looking at the mobility metrics, we kind of wanted to see if mobility is impacted by implementing the countermeasures. So we looked at level of travel time reliability, the planning time index, like how much congestion there will be and how much more extra time people will have to plan to make that trip, and then the speed ratio, and found that overall the mobility isn't changed significantly with the implementation of safety countermeasures. So next steps, there's, as we mentioned, still some shortfalls in the data, some more information that we'd like to collect. Some of the safety projects that we have information on have the pre-data available, but they don't yet have the 3-year post data available. So we want to continue to work with our partners and kind of build upon the data that we're collecting to help us with ongoing monitoring and ensure that we can use this data to help inform any future safety action plans that we work on. So we do have a dashboard of all the data that was looked at, and you can go online and take a look at it and play around and see how different filters might impact the areas that you're interested in. We will be reaching out again to all our partners to gather new information about additional safety projects or safety countermeasures that they might have implemented. So keep your eyes out for emails on that. Here is some URLs that you can actually read the entire study, as well as visit the dashboard to see. You can focus in on certain projects and see how those particular projects fared after implementation. So that is the presentation on safety countermeasures. Again, this was one I'm not super knowledgeable on, but can certainly get back to you with the answers.
I just, one question, you said the mobility hasn't changed after the enactment of the safety issues. I don't want to assume anything. Is that a good thing or bad thing?
It would be generally a good thing. That means that people and vehicles are still being able to go through the intersections at a reasonable amount of time by adding in the safety countermeasure. You're not slowing down things to a point where it's impacting.
So you've added safety, but haven't lost efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I know you're not too proficient in the study, but were the years overlapping from when the high injury network was identified?
My understanding is that it would all be dependent on when the countermeasure was implemented and when those 3 years, the 3 years prior and the 3 years post would have been fallen within that timeline. So there likely are instances where there is that overlap. Maybe not every project, but.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we're making these safety investments and we're reducing the severity, yet. They're still in the high injury network, still seeing the highest injuries and deaths on their roads, so I just don't know. Where that balance is, and it's like. Sometimes if it's an FDOT road, which a lot of those are, they make this safety improvement and then they're never gonna put another investment in it again. But it's still on our high injury network, you know, I just. Trying to figure out what that looks like and. Just making sure that we can still continue to focus on making those corridors safe, even if there was an investment already made. Because they continue to be on our high injury network.
I mean, I would add, yeah, we've been pushing for that as well, just because. You know, they deemed a improvement solution. Always necessarily mean that is the solution, right? There's an infatuation with, you know, medians, closing medians, right? It is a huge part of safety reduction, right? And crash reduction is including more medians. Whether or not that's been determined that is a primary reducer of a lot of these severe crashes, then yet to be determined. People don't have a lot of practice using them. They have a tendency to pull out in front of vehicles and still doing U-turns. So that there's a tendency to say, okay, that was an improvement that we identified that might be helpful, but may not be the end goal. To your point, you know, Jacaranda, the easy one's the roundabout, right? It's poorly designed. Yeah, they need to be revisited, and that's what we're trying to kind of instill on an ongoing basis, is that this study is intended to support your point and say, just because we've identified it in the past as a serious, you know, injury or fatality location, doesn't mean that it ends the day we put up set improvement. We agree with that, and I think you'll see, you know, 41 is a good example. The sidewalks that we're, you know, attempting to build there are a continuation of prior investment that may or may not have been entirely successful. In most cases, it has seen reductions, serious injuries have come down, but we're still missing, I would say there's still this disconnect between serious injuries and then the kind of plateaued fatalities that we see in our data. A lot of that has to do with human nature and our inability to stop some of those things. So we've gotten safer in a lot of cases. Vehicles have gotten safer, so serious injuries have kind of been driven down. Now, really bad decisions that result in fatalities, those have kind of seemed to maintain fairly consistent. So to your point, I think we need to continue to evaluate. And I think we envision this as kind of an ongoing effort, not as a one-time, oh, we're going to do an evaluation of what we've done. I kind of see this as an ongoing effort of let's continually update the study, maybe on an annual basis, continue to evaluate as new projects get drawn in, because we are limited by that, you know, 3 years before, 3 years after, where there's a lot of safety projects that just got put in that we could not draw down for this study. So we didn't have enough data to back it up. So I think it's going to have to be an ongoing study. So we fully agree with that.
You have a special problem here in that you have such a transient population. And when you layer on top of that, all the visitors here, I mean, there's some challenges in Sarasota County that you won't have in my home county back in Maryland.
Oh, certainly. And just in where we have a tendency to concentrate a lot of our activities on corridors where just so happens a lot of people don't have cars or also walking, biking. You know, the Cortez and 41 intersection gives you a very obvious answer to, yeah, there's a lot of conflict out there. There's a lot of people that live in those mobile homes back there that maybe don't drive, that have to cross, you know, very congested areas, high traffic volumes, high speeds, that kind of a bad congruence of a lot of those things that, yeah, you add in people that are not familiar with our roadways, aging population. There's all kinds of significant markers in our data that show, you know, people would just assume speeding's number one. It's actually not even the top 5. It's time of the day, it's age of driver, it's both young and old. It's a mixture of a lot of those things that makes it certainly a complex situation to understand. And then, Brent's point, try to actually address, just because you think you might understand the reason what's causing it, might not be.
Entirely as a sheer growth of the area in the last between post years and over 2025. Right in COVID, but after that, growth is back. You know, it still plays the numbers a little.
Does this study break down the crashes by type? Like you're not, but some of the numbers there were like.
Go
whole
on
numbers,
the
right?
dashboard, then you can filter and look at more of those details.
Yeah, I looked at it, it was really good.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, the dashboard.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like some of the safety projects, like the ones like Brian was talking about, there's been strong emphasis on closing medians, right? Which would probably closing medians. The purpose of it is to stop like hooks, right, and all that.
Head on, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually coincidentally, I think some of it's funny that it did prevent some of that, but also it also caused some of it.
Right, some other
People are unsure, they're,
Depends who the driver
oh
is.
yeah, they're unclear of approach speed, right? So like you put it out on 41, like so you're talking about some of these faster moving roadways, like you put it on like, I'm interested to see personally like River Road, that section between 75 and 41. They're not letting left-hand turns on some of those. You have to do U-turns and come back at those signalized intersections. How is that going? So the intent is to stop fatalities. In a lot of cases it does, but it also causes, in some cases, a lot of fender benders to start because people are unsure of how to use those intersections.
I guess the other thing is, would you ever consider adding a qualitative approach to it? Like, I guess the question is, does it feel safer if you ask people, right?
Like perceived safety.
Yeah, does it feel safer to ride on? And because the numbers are the numbers, right? But also the feeling that something is safer probably has some value to it. I don't know how to measure that, but if you just want to, it's just a thought of if you wanted to expand the study, maybe through consultation, maybe you could somehow measure a perceived feeling of safety.
Oh, I would say public perception, a lot of those, like we just got anecdotal feedback on some of those closed median, protected lefts and rights. And, the initial complaint, I would say it's a complaint, but an observation is how narrow some of those are.
Yeah.
Some of those are like 9.5 feet, 10 feet to where like, say you drive a truck, those are pretty significant. You are not making those left-hand turns. Sometimes you're having to go to the entire next signalized intersection to make some of those. So we've gotten some of those tidbits and some of those feedback, but I would say it is still too early for some of those really, to Corinne's point, when you overlap the high injury network from when we did it, that was only 4 or 5 years ago in some cases. So some of those data points haven't even hit this study, which in my opinion, we need to continue to evaluate maybe on an annual basis to say, especially that Cortez segment where they put in those 6 hawk signals. They've done some weekly observations on that, but like large scale trend hasn't been captured in the same element as maybe some of those long-standing safety. So it's a work in progress, but yeah, there's a lot of data out there that will still.
I think this is the right move though, because a lot of the people in the past, having just been in this environment and this space for 10 years, everybody's been, what impact are you thinking? What are we doing? Like, how are we measuring success? And I think this is a really good step in being able to provide that narrative. So, well done.
I have one more question.
Oh, sorry.
I guess the one that jumped out for me was the spike in bike pet crashes or on B Ridge. What did it say, like 218?
Not just, I don't remember.
Not 218, well, was it 2018, right? With your data set?
211 more total crashes.
211 more.
Oh, total, so
Total.
vehicle or bike.
Oh,
Not-
okay. Pedestrian, okay. So it's a pedestrian safety improvement on B Ridge resulted in 211 more crashes?
More crashes.
Well, they didn't say the safety, it wasn't a result of the safety improvement, it's just over
Over
the
that
time
time
frame,
period.
it's increased in crashes.
Okay.
Since that was installed, but it's not causation.
No,
Correct.
no. It's an observation of. Also, like to David's point,
Maybe it was.
you have to take into account like, the average daily traffic on some of those as well. You have to say, year over year, that's probably not that severe if you're comparing it from.
You were just crazy.
From 8 years ago,
Yeah.
that
You were just insane.
211 is probably actually not all that bad, given, traffic 8 years ago versus traffic now. But it is something like, once again, it's like all of our projects, you have to take all these individual data points and then create the story.
But what was the pedestrian safety improvement?
So John Kubicki talked about this at a prior advisory committee meeting and said that the safety portion of that project was very, very minimal. Of
Okay.
the overall project on the roadway. I believe it's the medians what are they, I forget what they're called, they're not technically crossings, but.
Oh, right,
Or
right.
they're extra, like they're pedestrian,
Yeah.
sanctuaries or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Kind of, yeah,
Or
right,
whatever,
right.
that's not the right word,
Yeah,
but.
they're right. I know, yeah,
Refuge island.
okay.
Well, that's my point about being, well, just
Right.
because you put safety in title doesn't necessarily mean the main target or objective of that
Of that
project
project.
was to improve safety conditions.
It's still a 6-lane highway.
Correct.
So.
So this is more to illustrate, like, it should be an ongoing effort, and there are, there's some limitations to the data after this first go round, like, okay, this is what we found, but there's obviously ways to improve
Right,
it.
and the point for what was the year for the 3 years after and 3 years before?
To compare before and after, so for the safety metrics that were evaluated, we had to have data from 3 years before the measure was implemented, and 3 years after, and for,
So what year was that though?
it depends on when it was implemented.
So like that's the federal highway kind of standard too. They don't want us making inferences about whether or not the improvement worked until it had proper time to gestate out on the roadway, or prior to that to absorb some of the other, Craig's point, correlation and causation there. There could be other things that happened in surrounding roadways that might have caused an increase or a decrease, right? Like we've had new roadway openings that could potentially deter some of that traffic. So that's why they want us to have such a large sample size. Problem is that we've had a ton of safety improvements within the last 3 to 5 years that might have not shown up.
Yeah.
Just a crazy observation, all right? I'm a big time believer we have to do something with distracted driving. And I'm looking at this, because I'm saying 6 years ago, people were using their cell phone. And I'm wondering if there's been any correlation between the cause of the accident and the improvements, because I think the improvements might be far greater than what this is showing because of the number of people today or 2 years ago that are using phones where 6 years ago they weren't. And I'll bet if you look at it, DUIs or drunk driving was a major cause of accidents back 6 years ago. Today, we've seen it is distracted driving. And that has a real big impact on your results. And I don't know if that's ever factored or will be, or I don't know, we're really pushing
It is a
to consider
considered
driving
factor.
fast.
It's a standard FTT factor, right? Like when you look at the categories in which you can filter, it's also very hard to quantify and calculate, right? You'd have to get somebody and give somebody a ticket for distracted driving before it to show up, for example. So you could be doing it all the time and never get in an accident or cause an accident. Never know if somebody was distracted while they were driving. You have to have that quantifiably in a report for that to count.
Right.
So to your point, yeah, I think, you compare it to even 6 and you give it, say, 15 years ago, put it in 2010, certainly there's been a massive increase in some of these. These are 5-year rolling averages. We're dropping off some of those, like COVID, for example, is rolling off back into this where, people say inexplicably, in my opinion, it is that there's not as many people on the road, people were driving faster, resulted in more fatalities. That was a given data set. We saw that kind of percolate through the data. Now that we're hitting 26, some of that's kind of rotating off. You're seeing post-COVID, some of those declines come off, where we're seeing serious injuries come down, fatalities that are kind of holding steady, and that's something that we're going to continue to evaluate.
I think when it comes to the increase in crashes, but the decrease in fatal and serious injury crashes, I think that's what we have to focus on, because Vision Zero is about the elimination of serious injuries and fatalities. It's not about reducing car crashes. The beauty of a roundabout is you can increase car crashes by 20%, but you'll reduce serious injuries and fatalities by 80–90%. And that's our goal here. So we have to increase crashes by 1,000 to get to 0 fatalities and serious injuries, then count me in for it. So I think that's really good that that's what this story is doing.
I think an interesting point, if that's what the data also shows on that end too, is the learning curve there. So like beforehand, that's why they want to use basically a 7-year window of this, is that learning curve on the front end. When you start construction, people are starting to act more erratically, behavior changes, and then same thing when it's completed, it takes them 18–24 months to learn how to use said improvement. So, like that's where that curve is, to your point, is that, hey, you might see an uptick, you might see a spike for a momentary period of time, but after several years of implementation, you see those things kind of level off. And to your point, most of these if not almost unilaterally, these improvements have reduced.
Is the DDI in here?
It should be.
Like, just out of curiosity, like, it's probably one of the biggest safety projects, you know,
It is, I think, in a function of like corridor, not specific project wise.
because I don't think University paid on there for you, right?
Not see, and that was, that's. Like, so. It
Oh, was
probably
it out
doesn't-
of the,
Yeah, it probably
it was out
doesn't
of it.
reach that threshold. It's there.
Clark was it?
There.
Clark's within the threshold.
Yeah,
Oh, that's University.
yeah,
I mean, the data isn't in the threshold, but
correct.
the treatment is in the threshold.
It
that
is.
you Can add.
I just don't think I think it's actually safer than, it's actually much safer than the vast majority of our other parts of our network, so it doesn't really.
Oh, just generally speaking.
Generally
Clark.
speaking.
Oh, Clark, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Nobody's out
Well,
there yet.
you know, and you weight that against the number of trips, it kind of tears it down a little bit. You know, you don't want to look at the areas like Cortez and 41, all those, because just trip wise, number of crashes and serious injuries, fatalities they generate is a lot higher than some of them. So. Yeah.
Thank you, Meg.
You're welcome. I got,
You're up next.
I got one more, just a quick update that, we, just kicked off our regional transit feasibility study. It's one of the 5 planning studies we're working on this year. We've, met with our, transit agencies, Breeze and MCAT. And this study will be looking at, our regional transit needs over the next 25 years, encompassing all modes of transit within the 2-county area. And we'll hopefully establish a framework for us to achieve our long-range goals for the growth that's expected. So as we work through that project, we'll be sure to share some updates because a lot of our transit users starting on their trip as a pedestrian or cyclist.
Don't kill
Should
me.
have told you to stop asking questions.
The only thing I want to bring up with this study though is, I'm just curious if your scope is gonna look at the north, rail line corridor in terms, like where the Lakes Trail picks up. I know there's been some discussion in the past about how that corridor might be used in the future or preserved, right, for future dual modes, right? I'm sorry, transit in the rail line along with bike ped, right? I don't know where that's going yet, I think, but do you think that study is gonna look at that and at all, or do you think that, is it more, we're talking about like our like a bus service and like things like that?
Well, I think the intent is for it to look at all different transit modes, whether or not that comes up as a transit need within the community. That's, I think, still to be determined, but it's possible.
Have you guys organized this in such a way that the recommendations can be integrated into the TDPs? Right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Anything else? Let's go around the table, Corinne.
All right, so the city is doing a lot. I believe I mentioned this last time, but we're working on a traffic calming plan. We have some neighborhood meetings coming up in March. And we're also bringing our first public hearing for the speed limit reduction on local roadways on the second commission meeting in March. It'll be the first public hearing, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know how much Patrick talked about the trails in the city, but we have the Circus Trail that will connect from the Beneva sidewalk that's being done all the way through Bobby Jones Golf Course. We are going through the local assistance program with FDOT for that. We did just receive that our design variation was approved. And so we'll be going out, we'll be getting the LAP agreement put into place and then going out to get from 30% design to 100% design. So we're prepared for construction when construction funding comes in. And so that was thanks to MPO as well as the Sun Trail funding for that. Making money move, that's awesome, so that's exciting. And then that will connect to the 17th Street Park in the county, which will then go up to Nathan Benderson. But I may be repeating myself, I don't know what Patrick said. And then I know he did say about the ribbon cutting in March for that connector to the Legacy Trail in South Payne Parkway. We will give you that information when the date is scheduled. we're grouping it with a bike from work event. I won't go to, I'm sure he talked to you
I
about
did.
it, okay. I will tell you though, that we're working on a design for the connector piece to US 301. And FDOT has included a pedestrian hybrid beacon on US 301. Their project, the whole resurfacing project, the letting date is in March and the construction date should start in June of this year, so. And I believe that's an MPO funded project as well, so big partnerships all around between the city, FDOT and the MPO and the county, of course, so. Am I missing anything? It's okay, you know, you guys spread it around, that's all I got, thanks.
Good. Couple of things, mentioned earlier, there is a, safety jam put on by FDOT and a bunch of others on the, 28th. It's gonna be at State College of Florida. 26th Street, West Bradenton, it's from 10 until 2, I believe. They're gonna have, helmets, they're gonna have a bike rodeo and a lot of equipment, and things like that. And it'd be good to publicize that so we can get the little ones trained on how to ride their bicycles. From a legislative update, the e-bike bill, which is known as House Bill 243, et cetera, is probably gonna be heard. It's been watered down a little bit. Not quite as strong as the Florida Bike Association would like to see it, but something is better than nothing. And the distracted driving bill, which I highly support, did not get out of the Senate. The Senate Bill 1152, so it didn't get out of the committee, so it will not be heard this year. So nothing on distracted driving.
Tom? For me? Patrick?
The only thing to add from my trails update, to highlight is, March 7th is our second anniversary. Well, it's the second bike bash that we're having in Inglewood. And it's to promote bike safety in the Inglewood area. We do that in partnership with the Department of Health. This year, we're adding a bicycle skills. It's not a bike rodeo, but it's a bicycle skills course that Eugene Ryder is helping us with the Florida Bike Association. It's on March 7th from I just added up here. I think from 10 to or 12 to 10 to 1, let's just say. I'll send you the flyer, but we have bike fitting. We're gonna fit helmets, have lights, and have course safety courses for youth to attend and try out. So that'll be down in Inglewood. It's our second year doing it, and something we're doing on hopefully on a yearly basis.
Wait, what is that event called?
It's called the Inglewood Bike Bash.
Batch, okay.
Evan?
Nothing for me.
And anything else, Megan? Well, since this is an informal meeting of this group, is there anything else before the group? I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.
For you.
Each other, I don't know if these guys. Sarasota County, New Jersey, new.
Oh, great. Yeah, I just started up. We just started.